So, welcome to week 9. I can't believe we've done 9 different images from the whole seed catalog, a variety of different things, and some of them can be found on my Elaine M. Bergstrom YouTube channel, and you can follow along, which is wonderful. So, this week we're going to focus on the King Tut purple and their pea pods, and it has a beautiful flower and beautiful green peas on it. I thought it was really stunning with the little cap. I'm not sure botanically what it's called, but I thought it was lovely. And our Japanese aesthetic this week is Medatsu, Medatsu. And some of these Japanese aesthetics are from this book. It's new for me. Elements of Japanese Design by Boy Lafayette Demente, also author of Samurai Strategies. And because I'm following this photographer online, Shizen Style. He recommended this book, and I really have just started it. But for this, I decided, what is it speaking to me? And to me, it was about composition and focus. So in the catalog, they put this piece. And I found it kind of disturbing. There were a lot of different pieces of this composition on the page. I was drawn to it because of the pod, the beautiful flower, and of course, the piece stacked up. But then as I started looking at it, I was like, what is the focus? And that's what this Japanese aesthetic is, creating focal points. So when I went to rareseed.com, which is the affiliation, you can find this image, and they changed the composition. And for me, it was a little more pleasing. Um, I felt like this was just here's a piece, here's a piece, here's a piece, here's a piece, where I thought this was flowing a little bit. Um, but then again, is it too busy? And where does my eye go? So in live classes, I've always had students close their eyes for a couple seconds, actually try and do this, and then look at the screen on one of the pictures and ask yourself, where do my eyes go first, second, and third? So for me, on the right side of the screen, I see the big bean capsule, and I love the top of it because it looks like a flower. But because I go up and then the green, the diagonal of the peas pull me down. I go to the right with the pea, and then obviously the diagonal brings me up to the flower. So maybe it is a good composition because it's moving me. The photographer is moving me around the composition. Now, on here, close your eyes again for a few seconds and then open it to the left side of the screen. And where do you focus? Do you know where you focus? So I'm assuming because the pod is in the center that it just forces us to go there. It's like an X in the middle of the page. And then I definitely go up and I jump on, I think, the pea pod, and I'm kind of, I think, maybe stuck, but the diagonal makes me go to the flower on the left because you can't help but see it. And then, of course, I go back to the little pile of the peas. So I'm curious, let me know what you think about the compositions, and do you like one over the other? So while we are working on this piece, we are going to focus on the bean, the capsule head or flower. I'm not sure what they call it botanically. And then, of course, the beautiful flower. And then I want to encourage you um, to create your own composition with this. Now, if you're nature journaling, which I do, is I will probably add words to the page. And sometimes that can give the balance to the pieces. I also thought about adding this flower to the left side, and then it would really be symmetrical composition with the vertical P in the center and the balance of the two flowers. Um, but I'm going to leave that up to you and go into the painting that we're going to try to accomplish today. So obviously we're going to start on the large pea pod. And what do you notice? You ask yourself color wise. So just the pod itself, I do see some really light tones, maybe light pink, very light pink, definitely with a gouache pink maybe and white highlights. So the light is definitely much stronger this way. Um, I see red violets and probably some deeper purples in it or blues. And then, of course, a yellow green. And it has like a little bonnet on top. This is a little bit deeper blue green. And then, of course, when we get into the orchid, I see, it's pinks and it's uh, queen rose I would use with some red violet, and then it gets purple violet in here. There's some dark, and then this becomes more red, crimson color, and a little bit warmer greens. Maybe some olive in there and some blue greens, but I don't need to actually think about that yet because I want to start with the pot. So, I need to start with a red violet mixing. And so let me just scoot this down a little bit and move my palette. So I need to activate my watercolors. So I am going to spray my 6 to 8 tubes. I do have a couple other colors on here, but most of them you should be familiar with because they're my two yellows, two reds, two blues, burnt sienna, and Payne's gray. And then addition wise, sometimes I like sap green. I do have kind of like a turquoise aqua color that I like to use when I'm doing landscapes. I do have a yellow ochre and the buff titanium just because I was probably teaching some other classes in those colors. But if you have the 8 tubes, you should be able to mix almost everything. Once in a while, there will be some colors that, I'll go to the store and I will purchase. And then again, if you're not using the Velvet Touch long rounds, which I recommend, This new brush set has been quite helpful. They come in a pack of, I think, five. It's Fusion Brushes by Asutomo, so it's a Japanese company. And I like it. They have a decent brush, and I like because they spring back. I like brushes that spring back, but then it's soft enough to be able to blend too. So if you're looking for brushes, I think this set of five was only $16. The Velvet Touches, I want to say anywhere from maybe $8 to $12. Depends on your store and what you're doing. So red violet, the easiest way is to start with your cool red, which has more blue in it. And then ultramarine blue makes a very good purple mix. If you don't, most people have ultramarine blue. Some, you might even have a French ultramarine, which has even more blue in it, but it makes nice purple. So I think that's a good base. Um, and I always do my mixing on the palette. So I'm going to start with, let's say, putting a light, watery coat of the red violet everywhere, and then maybe lifting out some of those spots or going back in later with some gouache. So let's go ahead and give it a light coat. Does have some violet still in the brush, but typically rinse out your brush better than I did. And hopefully you got a chance to transfer the bean. So if you ever did my watercolors with six tubes class, in it, I teach you how to do eggplants. There was also a time we talked about pomegranates, but this reminds me of the eggplant because of the colors. Now, eggplants can vary in color, so I'm moving over the palette since you saw it, and I'm going to really dilute the color, uh, so it's a very light wash, and actually, there was a really light wash on it, but we're going to get darker. And there's a good amount of water, so it's kind of moving. Now, this also reminds me a little bit about the first week, which was the zucchini, which we didn't do together. I had done, but it has some similar properties for painting in it. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is before it dries is you lift up the paint where the white is. So it's a matter of cleaning your brush in between and lifting it. Now, if you're using watercolor paper, it should be easier than the journal paper. I'm thinking of switching brands. I just like the feel of this paper so much. And then you could lift out some of these spots and you go back and forth with them. So, but it's easiest to keep the white of the paper now. And sometimes I'll even take like a clean paper towel, um, and I can just blot. It's already starting to dry, and there's some lightness there. Okay, so now we've got that, and we will have that as an undertone. But it gets much darker, doesn't it? So we can try first by adding some more uh, blue to the mix and slowly getting a little bit deeper. So let me show you because I know you can't see. So you can see I added a little bit more, not to the whole pile, but an area. And if that is dry, it's not completely. So it's a combination of what I call washes glazing. So layering on top or wet on wet. So I kind of play with it as I need it. So I am just going to quickly dry that first layer. It was almost dry. And then what seems kind of crazy is that now I'm going to go back over it with water. Yes, after it's dry. And it gives a more, I don't know, I guess translucent, where you can put the colors and still see. So I'm going to start with the right side because it's so much darker and kind of let it kind of drop through a little rougher. Now, some artists would go darker and get to the punch, but many artists will do this layering method and put lots of layers on it. So we went kind of vertical, but if you look at the beans kind of go sideways, don't they? So if you see maybe a pattern, you might want to change the direction and create kind of like a spotty, it's kind of like a spotty texture. It's starting to dry on the Stillman and Burns paper, but if you're using watercolor, um, so it's giving me that texture, but it's not really dark enough. But I rather go slower, that's me, than drop it in really fast. So now I'm going to clean my brush because, and then kind of leave the center split kind of open, but add water. And it's I didn't put the water in the center this time. So what's nice is it's kind of barricaded and running, but it's giving it kind of a nice texture, but it's not dark enough. So make sure you kind of pull the paint horizontal. And that gave it kind of a cool texture, but it's not dark enough yet, right? Okay, so I'm going to try that now because I kind of want that to stay. So we'll do a little bit more on this, and then we might work on the cap piece of it. Um, while this sets a little bit. Okay, so we want to get darker. So I'm going to go and add more blue. Now, I think I'm going to, because it's dry, but I want a finer and a pointy brush. So if I go to my 6 or 4, my long round velvet touch, I've got a really good point. And maybe I can keep my uh, line a little more accurate. Now, if you have water, it may run. So that's why it said, now try and dry it. And then I want to soften the edge because it's really, so I cleaned the brush and I'm going over it with water. And then if you look, there's can break up the edge a little bit. Okay. And then there's some white, and it kind of gets darker more on this side. So I think what I'm going to do, because this is dry, is I'm going to leave that center kind of light and put some clean water on the right side of it. And you can see that darker. So I might need to mix more. And it's definitely deeper and darker, but we're building. So sometimes the eggplants you can see more color too. And sometimes they're so dark, they're almost black in color. So I imagine this bean can be that deep too. Let's see, so we definitely need more color. You can see the white kind of, and it comes in at the bottom. You might want to lift a little bit and soften that inner line. And if you lose that white line, you can lift it out a little bit. So now I'm just dragging that wet paint over. The problem is that if it dries, so this, let's see, let's lift. I'm getting a little too wide. So it's got to be dry, remember. And this is my flat little shader. Okay. So make sure if you can't, it's dry. If it's wet, it's going to bleed. So a little bit better, and I can clean that up. So now, let's see. I also want to bring this out too. And then that softens the edge a little bit. So this side is darker. So this time I'm going to add some my cool blue, which is phthalo blue, and add some more red to it. And that really gives me a little bit even darker. Now, probably need some water because your paper has dried out. So I'm kind of pulling it from the left edge. And you could see if it's wet. So I'm kind of dabbing, I guess you would say. And I guess at this point, it's just really seeing the lights and darks, and you can lift if it's getting too dark. But don't go too far and then it dries and it's hard to soften. But you can always go back and add layers. So if you are losing that lightness, you can always lift it. So I feel like I want more red in there now. Uh, oops. I hope you're enjoying these painting videos. They've been kind of fun to do. I think we're going to have to get darker too. Oh, it's nice as you can see the color. So I think, let's see, and so the next phase, I want to add some browns in it. Um, okay. So hopefully you caught up to this spot, and now the next layer needs to be more brownish magenta. So I'm going to start with my um, cool red. Always start with the lightest color first. And let's just scoot over a little bit so you can see the colors in my tray. So it's still activated with water, but I want to make it a little bit more flowy. And then go to your burnt sienna, which is like an orangey brown, and add that to your pile. So start with the corner, maybe. Let's just see. So it actually can have, I'm gonna try some phthalo blue in it. Yep, that looks better. Let's see. Yeah, so I think that's a really good shade. So I started with my cool red. I added burnt sienna and then added a drop or so, it's more than a drop of the phthalo blue. But phthalo blue is very strong and very staining. So always go slow with it if you can. Okay. So I'm gonna move this back so you can see it. And at some point, like I'm noticing I have three areas of water. This is my smaller Asian kind of division, but sometimes I use a huge watercolor bucket with 3 seconds because I'm I need sometimes more water. Okay, so I'm going to start with the right side. It's dry, and I'm gonna give it some clean water. And if you look, it's kind of bumpy or rounded on the edges there. Oh, see. And maybe switch your direction of in to out, where sometimes you may go this way and sometimes you bring the paint in. It just gets so dark in there. And while it's wet, I can take a finer brush and kind of scalloping the edge with my brush a little bit. Kind of gives that pea pod look. So I'm going to mix up a little bit more of that. So we have the red, which I have, some more burnt sienna, and a drop of the phthalo blue. So you can see how much darker it got and pretty fast. So let's see. So we need to keep some of it light. And I didn't pre-wet this yet. It's actually quite thick, the left side. Kind of breaking up some of that. May add a little water. And now if you can't see some of these color changes, feel free to use magnifying glass. For years, I used like magnifying headsets for really detailed stuff. I don't do that too much, but sometimes if you can't see, you can't see, and you need that tool. Right now, it's just my eyes are cloudy, so I may look at it tomorrow and go, "What did you paint?" But can always relayer, lift out. Hey, so you can start seeing that little bit of light, but this needs to get a little bit deeper. So that was just adding a little more phthalo blue, and it really got dark fast. So sometimes it's scary to put these really dark colors on. Really on the edge now. I'm not really paying attention to the photo, but I should. So it got really kind of dark, so I'm gonna stop. Let it dry. And I'm actually gonna dry it this way a little bit. And then maybe add some pink wash to it. See, or white wash. Before it completely dries, I'm going to take my flat shader and I'm going to turn this a little bit. I think I'm going to actually take this off because I can pretty much see. Sometimes I leave it on because I can't see the details as much. But want to soften this line. So this brush is great because you can lift a lot of different things with it. Oh, I can fuss a lot with this. Obviously, we talked about what I do in the field and what I do here and play with the colors is going to be different. So now I want to go back and um, when it's dry, uh, add some gouache. So gouache is opaque colors, and these are pastel colors, so they go great over. So I'm going to dry this. And that's pretty dry. And then going to activate the colors by spraying water on them. Kind of let it soak in. And let's just, I mean, it's hard to get the paint and see that here. Maybe you can see it here. And let's see. A little bit finer brush. Oops. So it's not super stark, the pink, but it's lighter, so we'll see. And these are Holbein. And I think my website under supplies, um, the colors are listed. Looks a little wider, but for right now, I think it's okay. Um, and then I'm going to take some pink, and I do have some permanent, it's Holbein. I think it's permanent white. Let's see. Yeah, a little bit of that pop of white in it. And as long as, it's not, but look at how that just popped out. And it's a little bit whiter right here. So let's kind of leave some dark space. I like using, obviously, my fingers to soften it, but you can use a brush. I'm going to go back to the pink because you see it, there's really some nice pink accents. And the markings will make a difference. So I'd fuss with this a little bit more. But I think it's important, not that you want to copy everything, but I think we learn by really looking and seeing. And then you can pull back, right? And then when it dries, I think I'd like to go over a light Quin Rose glaze over everything. It seems like this still has a little bit more red to it. So I think that's pretty good with that. So we'll let that dry a little bit. And I can still pop it with some white and some pink on it. Clean that up. So let's see. Probably can't get to all the details, but let's get to maybe putting in some of the green leaves. I'm gonna move the wash aside, flip this over a little bit. Maybe I can show the mixes. So I think, a bright yellow green. So I'm going to use my cool yellow, which is Usually the one I'll say is more lemon yellow than golden. And my cool blue. And once it dries, I can erase the transfer paper. This is also great time sometimes to use the gouache too. So they're bright greens. I don't have any warm greens. And then it's just and since that's a pretty dark, I'm gonna go with I do have some sap green. So I would mix my cool yellow with my warm blue, and that could probably I can get a little similarity to this because it's not quite warm and it's not quite cool. And to dull it, I might add a warm red to it if I needed to. So this side is a little bit deeper. I have to work on that one. I think during the day I'd probably see a little better personally. I'm starting to struggle with what I'm seeing. Okay. So light, dark, which one's lighter, which one's, you know, just to pop it. Okay, this is still wet. Okay, so I am going to take my Cool Red and make a real thin kind of wash with it. And I'm gonna go over everything. Now it's got to be dry on this side. So a little bit more. Might be hard to see on the video, but it definitely gave it some more color. And I'll let that dry, but and then I'll probably go back and either add, obviously I need some more highlights, which are kind of lost, but kind of play with those either lifting or going out because it looks dark. I can kind of see him though, but on the camera it doesn't show up as nicely. So just by blotting it, but I don't have as much definition as I would like. Excuse me with that. So I'm going to stop here and may know we may come back and complete the flower and the head and talk about finishing that.